We need to talk about EA's F125 driver ratings because, frankly, they need some work. So I've put together this spreadsheet here to basically reverse engineer to see what the hell EA have done, and then also just to try and correct it to see if we can get it better than what they've done. So first of all, this is just the normal rating. This is just this ordered how the EA thinks they should be ordered. So this is based on the overall rating number that you see there. So Max Verstappen being top, not a surprise. Lando Norris second seems maybe lofty, but maybe okay. Leclerc, George Russell, Sainz, but then you come across Lewis Hamilton down there in 6th place, ranked 6th best. I mean, that seems surely too harsh. Alonso, I mean, maybe, yeah, with Hamilton, but is Sainz better than Alonso? I don't know. Piastri, down there in 8th when Norris is 2nd, rating of 87 to Norris's 91. Seems harsh, at least on what we've seen this year. Last year, maybe that'd have been fairer. You then got Gasly and Ocon, pretty similar, yeah. Hulkenberg, quite low. Albon, down there in 12th. Again, by what we've seen this year, seems very, very hard. I mean, literally, Ocon in 12th and Sainz in 5th. Doesn't seem quite right. Tsunoda down there in 13th. Yeah, quite harsh, but I guess fair. Lawson 14th. Better than Lance Stroll and better than any of the other rookies. I mean, what is that? His rating is 80. Meanwhile, Behrman, the next highest rookie, is 74. Lawson is not that much better than the other guys. Also, Behrman is the second best rookie. I mean, look at Antonelli. Why is Antonelli the second worst driver in EA's F1 It's just not right. It's not right. So, first of all, let's just reorganize them. So, let's sort them by pace. Now, this gives us the first clue as to what they're doing, because if you look, this order is pretty much unchanged. Sorted by pace. In fact, the first driver that's changed when you sort by pace is Albon, who's actually gained a position there in 11th. Tsunoda, Lawson all gained 1 because Hulkenberg's dropped 3 based on pace. Doohan's also, though, just gained 3. Lance Stroll's lost 2. Antonelli's still there in 18th, though, so it's not perfect, but clearly they're mostly just sorting it by pace, which to some extent makes sense because, you know, pace is the most important thing in F1, but it's not everything. So just let's test that theory by organising by awareness. Now, awareness is basically them avoiding the steward's room. That's basically all it is. It's just avoiding penalties. As you can see here, this is where things get a little bit crazy because we've got the clerk up there, the best, then Hamilton, Sainz, Piastri, Verstappen down to 5th for that one. Hulkenberg up there, though. This, I don't know, it seems a bit crazy, but to be honest, I'm pretty much just going to trust this number because if it's just based on the steward's room, awareness, it kind of works. I mean, ideally, you'd want to do it more by collisions or something like that, but it's hard to do statistically. So this, I think, is broadly sort of somewhat fair. I mean, who we got? We got Hadjar. Okay, the rookies down the bottom. That makes some sense. Lawson down there as well. That at least puts Antonelli up to 12th. I think the awareness is kind of fair, but just not representative of the order of everything. I mean, look at these orders at the top. Antonelli's just gained 7 positions. So, fine, awareness. You've then got racecraft, which is basically their starting position versus their finishing position. So how many positions they gain in the race. That's the idea of it, which again makes some sense. But they also add in laps led, which is why Max Verstappen is up there, because actually on average, Max Verstappen loses about 1 position per race because he qualifies so well. So rather than punishing the bad qualifiers, that they've added in the laps led, which is why you then get Verstappen at the top, Sainz, Leclerc, Russell. All these guys have led laps recently, Piastri, Hamilton, obviously, but obviously it is weighted towards recent times, which you want. It should be based on current form, not all time, otherwise Hamilton would just be miles clear. Alonso, yeah, Norris, probably quite harsh, honestly, but he tends to qualify quite well and hasn't led that many laps, really. So, yeah, I mean, again, honestly, statistically, this seems sort of somewhat fair. I mean, do we think this actually ranks people by racecraft? I mean, do we think that, I guess the rookies having bad racecraft kind of works? Do we think that Stroll, bad racecraft? Yeah. Albon, bad racecraft? No, not really. That's not right, is it? I mean, he's literally got the third worst racecraft of a non-rookie. In fact, yes, that's right. Hulkenberg, again, like, it seems a bit harsh, but they've all got decent racecraft. I think broadly this one also works. So let's organise by experience then. Now, this is literally just based on race starts, and this should be the least debatable category. Obviously, we've got Alonso there going up by 6 positions with this, having the most experience. Hamilton just behind him. For some reason, the experience, though, seems to go down to 50. 50 seems to be the lowest the experience could possibly be, which I guess kind of works because 0 would drag their ratings down too far. But yeah, I mean, I don't think we can argue with this. This is a really factual description of everyone's experience. This seems to be ordered perfectly. So let's get into the reverse engineering then. So based on all that, you can see the only one that's really representative of the actual ordering is the pace, which we've covered. Pace is mainly based on quali order quali times and race times versus the fastest time, but also relative to their teammate. So it does give a weighting to the people in the top teams, but also it is to some extent against their teammate. Anyway, so let's sort it. Instead of doing it by whatever this rating figure is that they've got, let's sort it by average. So let's just average out these four numbers here, just a straight average between those four. And suddenly we get Lewis Hamilton being the best, Max Verstappen second, which, although they've got the same average rating there, let's be honest, Verstappen is better than Lewis these days. Leclerc in third seems pretty fair. Sainz as well up there. Yeah, okay. Alonso's gained 2 positions in this. Okay, all right. This ordering seems a bit better. George Russell, yeah, wouldn't maybe put him behind Sainz. Lando Norris down in 7th does seem harsh. Hülkenberg over Piastri, probably not quite right. So this is definitely an improvement on what they've done, but clearly isn't what they've done, and it still isn't quite right, let's be honest. I mean, Antonelli's still down in 17th. So let's try then a weighted average. So all I've done with this one is I've made the pace number count twice. So it averages out these four and then adds in a 5th number of pace again, the same number again. Now this seems to me pretty much more representative because we know they're mostly ordered by pace. It's not perfect, but this is definitely a lot closer to what it should be. So we've got Hamilton now in second instead of first, which makes more sense. Max being the best with a weighted average of 92. Hamilton 2 points behind. That seems fair. Max is the best driver in F1. 2 points clear seems fair. Level with Charles Leclerc. Yeah, I mean, broadly speaking, seems fair. Sainz not far behind Leclerc. Yeah, fine. Alonso also not far behind these days. Yeah, okay. Norris, again, seems a little harsh, but I think Norris maybe this season been a bit worse than Alonso, Sainz, Leclerc. Probably. I mean, let's be honest, he was beaten quite comfortably by Max last year. Russell, Piastri, Hülkenberg, sort of best of the rest, really. Yeah, I mean, level with Gasly. Ocon very slightly behind Gasly. I mean, Alpine did let him go. Albon does seem harsh, but let's be honest, Albon is a very recent thing. Very, very recent thing that he's been doing as well he has been doing. So him somewhere near Gasly and Ocon seems broadly fair. Tsunoda, Stroll, Lawson still for some reason really high. Antonelli still treated quite harshly, but this is definitely now much closer to what it should be. But as you can see by the numbers at the top, it's not what EA are ranking it by. I mean, look, we've got Hamilton still gaining 4 positions. Sainz gained 1, Alonso gained 2, Norris lost 4, George Russell lost 3. So this isn't, it's probably more accurate than what EA are using, but it's not what they're using. Now, the closest I've managed to get to what EA are using is what I'm calling pace as base. Now, basically what I've done here, and you can see straight off the bat, the top 3 are ordered how EA have ordered them. Now, what I've done here is I've started with the pace number. So in Max's case, started with number 96. I've then, if a number, the other 3, if one of them is higher than the pace, add 1. If one of those is lower than the pace, take away 1. That's what I've done. Or I think if it's level, I also added 1. So we start with 96. We add 1 because his racecraft is the same as his pace. So that's now 97. We then take 1 away, though, because his awareness is lower. That's 96. We take another 1 away because experience is lower. That's 95. And oh, look, 95, which is the same as EA's rating. So this seems to be, it's not perfect, but this seems to be pretty close to whatever EA are using. They're not using an average or a weighted average. They're just taking the pace number and modifying it very slightly based on the other numbers. I mean, look, we've got the top 3 literally having the exact right numbers. Hamilton has gained a overall rating, which gains him 2 positions overall. George Russell has lost an overall rating. But look, all of these numbers are sort of within 1 of what EA have said. So it's really, really close to what they've done. And to be honest, they do say they get in some pundits to adjust things. So it may well be they use exactly this formula and the pundits add 1 or take 1 away if we think the system has perhaps been a little bit harsh. Because this is largely representative. I mean, Lawson's actually gained some somehow. He's all the way up there in 14th, which doesn't seem quite right. So we've still got some adjusting to do, which we'll do in a second. But for the most part, although I don't agree with these ratings, this seems to be more or less what EA are using. It's only really the rookies that are more than 1 point off their overall ranking. So yeah, I think for some reason that's what they're using. But what if we fix it? What if we become EA for a moment and try to fix the rankings? So what I've done here is I've done my own rankings. Now, the only thing I've changed for this is pace, and I've used the weighted average instead of that weird Pacers base thing that EA seem to be using. So, Max, I haven't actually changed, but the weighted average removes 3, but he's still the best driver in F1. That seems fair. Hamilton, I've given him 2 extra pace. 87 pace seemed harsh. I've given him +2, which gives him +2 compared to his original rating that EA gave him, which puts him 2nd overall, which is Lewis Hamilton. I know his form's not been amazing recently, but that kind of seems fair to me, to be honest, to put Hamilton 2nd. Only 1 point ahead of Leclerc, maybe a little bit lofty given recent form, but, you know, there or thereabouts. Sainz, yeah, I mean, he pretty much matched Leclerc when they were teammates. Russell definitely needs to be up there. He's level with Sainz on the weighted average. So is Alonso. All those 3 guys level on weighted average. That seems about right. And I've added, you can see, 4 points to George Russell's pace to achieve that. I haven't actually changed Lando's, but the weighted average drops him down to 7th, which again, it is harsh, but I know both these McLaren guys are performing very well, but do we think they're right now better drivers than these other guys? Maybe, but it's definitely close. So overall, both Lando's and Piastri's weighted average is 88. Their new overall score is 88, and these other guys are on 89. So they're 1 point off being top 4. I think that's maybe a little bit harsh, but broadly representative. And to achieve that, I've had to add 7 to Oscar Piastri's pace score. He was definitely getting harshly treated. And again, though, based on last season, maybe kind of fair, but based on this season, he definitely should be higher than he is. So that puts him level with Lando, which I think is broadly fair. Hulkenberg, I've given him 2 extra pace scores. I think he was being quite harshly treated as well. Gasly, I've left him the same. Albon, I've added 3 to his pace score. Honestly, Albon, based on his current season form, 11th is probably a little bit low for him. He probably should be ahead of Gasly and Hulkenberg, but there's a reason I haven't adjusted these other data points, and that's because, I mean, like experience, for example, that is just based on fact. Racecraft is based on as factual as you can be, really, given that, and awareness is the same. So I think those other 3 are fair, so all I was able to adjust was pace, and did I think Alex Albon's pace number, which is 88, should be as good as, better than Fernando Alonso? Maybe not. Then we've got Ocon, who I haven't changed. Sonoda, I added some pace to him. I think he was being harshly treated. Stroll, I didn't change. He's down there in 14th, and worst of the full-time drivers. That seems fair. 2 points behind the next best driver. And then we come to the rookies. Now, these I had to adjust a little bit. As you can see, I've added 9 pace to Kimi Antonelli. The fact that Kimi, by any measurement, wasn't the best rookie in EA's eyes is insane. So that puts him still 6 points behind Lance Stroll, but best of the rookies by 2 points over Behrman. That seems fair to me. Behrman, again, I've added 4 pace to him because he's, to me, is probably the 2nd best rookies, there or thereabouts. Honestly, I've given the same pace as Bortoletto and also the same pace as Hadjar because those guys, as far as we can gather so far, seem pretty closely matched, but bearing in mind the limited data they've got. And Lawson ends up actually in 18th place. He's not in last place, which of course is Doohan, who's been fired. I actually took 6 points off his pace, which only puts him joint bottom with Hadjar, but he's been fired. He got to be last place. Then Lawson, he's still 18th. For some reason, they gave him a really high pace score. I've taken 15 points off Liam Lawson's pace score, which puts him behind Jack Doohan, maybe a little bit harsh, but he's definitely not ahead of Hadjar, Bortoletto, Behrman, definitely not Antonelli. I don't know why his pace score was so high. Yes, he was in Red Bull for a bit, but also he was never really showing Red Bull pace. Very strange. Anyway, 15 points off, which takes 11 points off his overall rating and takes 4 positions off his overall ranking. Puts him down there 18th. To me, That seems fair. So overall, we end up with this order. What do you guys think? To me, it's not perfect. Look, it's not perfect. You're never going to be able to rank every driver perfectly, especially as I'm only changing one of the 3 ranking factors, and then other than that, just changing the way that they're overall rated. To me, this seems broadly fair. Broadly fair. I'm sure some of you guys disagree, but bear that in mind compared to what EA have got, which is this. I mean, it's just not right. Hamilton down there in 6th is not right. Piastri down there in 8th is definitely not right. Hulkenberg 11th seems a little bit harsh. Albon 12th is definitely harsh. Lawson in 14th is ridiculous. And then the rookies, Behrman being the next best rookie after Lawson is also ridiculous. And Antonelli 19th is obviously ridiculous. Jack doing apparently better than Antonelli and Hadjar, and yet he's been fired. It makes no sense. So although mine may not be perfect, I feel like it's more representative. So there we go, guys. Have at it in the comments. Let me know how much of an idiot I am, etc. But surely we can at least all agree that mine are better than EA's, which is ridiculous. Bear in mind, I've spent a couple of hours in a spreadsheet and ended up with a better ranking. I don't know if they did it for genuine, just like social media outrage and clicks and views. I don't really understand it, but definitely not very representative. Unfortunately, it probably also means that at least at launch of the game, we're going to get like Lando being way better than Piastri, which so far in 2025 is not representative. And also Charles Leclerc's probably come to beat Hamilton, which maybe is representative. Sainz, I think, is going to be much better than Albon. Hopefully EA, in a post-launch patch, and they do update them over time, can adjust them. And maybe even adjust the formulas they use, because something's definitely not quite right. Anyway, guys, don't forget to drop a sub if you haven't already, and I'll catch you next time. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.